Does Rachel Zegler really deserve all the hate? The answer is yes. Yes, she absolutely does. Minus any actual threats to her physical well-being, of course. The Lord knows how much of a huge fan I was of her work in Hunger Games. Little did I know back then what an insufferable and aloof brat she seemingly is, sadly. But enough of the snake. Let's talk about the Snow White drama. First of all, even though it is Snow White we are talking about here, Snow White. Personally, I could not care less that the titular role is being played by a Latina. I mean, just think of all the countless characters of color who were whitewashed by Hollywood. Also, I am not surprised in the slightest that Snow White in 2025 would be, at least a bit, more of a feminist who stands up for herself. After all, Snow White in the 30s was also written to be what the people back then during the rough and bitter post-war times would look up to and desperately needed: an optimistic, hard-working personality and role model, one with a heart of gold who keeps a bright outlook on life despite her harsh living situation under the strict reign and regime of the evil queen, a character whose positivity and manifesting was eventually met with true and eternal love. So again, it was rather obvious to me that Snow White in 2025 will be written to be, what I hope to be, only a bit more of a girl boss. And to be fair here, as much as people like to blame Rachel for all of this, I doubt that she had the last and final saying when it came to the creation of the remake's script. She was just simply stupid enough to swallow the bait and literally crucified herself and became the target for all the hate when she not only proudly embraced but also shamelessly bragged with the ultra-feminist changes Disney was going to do to Snow White with this remake, which I bet most fans didn't ask for but yet. Anyways, talking about remake, another thing that I don't necessarily agree on with many people online is the whole remake and reboot debate/debacle. Like, honestly, if it was my choice to make, I would make these companies spend more cash on original ideas too, and even more of that sweet cash on charity, first of all LMAO, and second of all, if you happen to be allergic to remakes and reboots for obvious reasons, then don't watch them and don't spend your time or attention on them and watch the original stuff instead. It is really that simple, honey, especially with products of fiction. Now, with all of that being said, it seems like Rachel Zegler did learn nothing from all the remake complaining and critiquing. Like, honestly, what did the girl expect to happen when she proudly insinuated that she was part of the team who changed what feels like half of the movie's plot without ever even considering that that is not what the majority of moviegoers will look forward to and enjoy? She had the audacity to talk smack about our bestie, the Snow White from the 30s. Like, girl, did you really believe that bullying Disney's first beloved heroine in front of the world's eyes will propel your career any further in any way? How far up your butt do you have to be, and how idiotic do you have to think to go about your day and all these interviews and not only bite the hand that feeds you but think that bad-mouthing the original Snow White, adored by the millions, would be a good idea? Is there anything between those two eyes but hot air and aloof woke girl boss thinking? I found it really hilarious when she so ever omnisciently judged the love and admiration between Snow White and her prince, calling him a stalker, and as we all know,
Weird.
Girl, sit down. You need to wring your hands and do a lot of thinking before you ever speak in interviews this confidently again. After all, didn't Ariel the mermaid in the 80s quote-unquote stalk her prince too before they officially met after she became a fish stick? But of course we don't talk about or scrutinize this scenario, because Ariel is a girl, right? And it gets way worse. Besides her already nasty attitude when addressing her work on and around Snow White, she clearly posted that Free Palestine tweet in full one prayer manner and for the attention, not to contribute anything constructive to the peacemaking cause. Hold up now, don't get me wrong. I fully support the protests against the unnecessary manslaughtering in Palestine, Ukraine, Africa, South America, the Arab states and everywhere else in the world, and I am anti-war in general, but voicing your opinion on that matter, especially when your platform is that big and influential, only to obviously do it to hash in on the likes and shares and deliver a side blow to your coworker, is just downright shameful and disgusting. Another person who deserves all the slandering in my opinion is Peter Dinklage. Dude, you are part of those who have ruined it for many aspiring actors in the little people community to get the chance of their lifetime and star in a worldwide major picture for the very first time. I am fully aware that this is a sensitive topic, but I strongly and respectfully believe that the 7 dwarfs in the original movie are, in my opinion, not the kind of characters whose portrayal by actual humans with achondroplasia, instead of uncanny valley CGI characters, would tarnish the little people community in any way. They have been super beloved for decades now and adored by millions for all the right reasons. And although I understand that the term dwarf has been misused as a slur against people who live with achondroplasia before, I say, when God gives you AIDS you make lemonades out of it. Because frankly I am not a fan of all the insanity-inducing political correctness and the embarrassing over-coddling that is happening in society nowadays. Since we all know that life is not the Wizard of Oz, you need to have thick skin to survive, and you better take more things in life with humor than too serious. And although I unquestionably try my utmost to have nothing but respect for people of all walks of life, like people who live with achondroplasia for example, believe me you that I would have played that dopey character with nothing but pride and honor if I was born and living with achondroplasia myself. All the haters could hate while I was counting my money, my job offers and social media followers from all the fame I would gain as an actor in Snow White, but it won't happen due to clowns like Peter Dinklage. Rumor has it that he only supports this type of thinking to avoid more competition from other actors and actresses with achondroplasia, and it is really sad if that is what is really going on inside this man's head. But enough of Peter. Let's go back to throw some tomatoes at Disney and dedicate this part of the video to thank Rachel for once. Because maybe Disney really needed an arrogant girl boss like Rachel in a leading role who would go on and stupidly embarrass them and predictably cost them hundreds of millions of dollars now, before they would finally wake up and realize that messing with the wrong fandoms, instead of coming up with crazy good new ideas, can backfire big time. And I am absolutely certain that it will backfire big time this time, and that most people will avoid this movie. I honestly hate even admitting to support any right-winged product in the slightest, but if I had to spend time and money on watching any upcoming Snow White movie next year, if that is of course, it would undoubtedly be Snow White and the Evil Queen. Let's just hope that they will grace us with the Snow White magic and masterpiece we deserve. Because we all know that Disney won't, sadly. Anyways, what is clear as day is that none of the Rachel Zegler drama changes anything about the fact that nothing and nobody will ever erase or replace Snow White from the original Disney movie. No other Snow White will ever outshine her legacy, her beauty, divineness, and her immeasurable kindness. Talking about kindness, once this video has ended in a few seconds, don't forget to share some kindness with your fellow human beings today. Unless you run into Rachel Zegler, you can send that bitch flying verbally for all I care. Just kidding. Bye loves.